Hi there, Nick here from Conservation Careers and welcome to the podcast. Now, why do so many people get into conservation because of a love of animals, only to discover it's all about people? And why, if you're interested in making an impact in conservation, should you focus on improving your communication skills in order to advance your career? We explore these questions and many more with today's guest, Jon Monsoon. Now, Jon brings over 20 years of experience in wildlife conservation, public relations and communications management. He's worked across corporate, government, private, public and NGO sectors as journalist, media strategist, magazine editor and digital content creator. Jon is also a qualified nature conservationist with a passion for cetacean conservation, human-wildlife conflict mitigation, and wildlife veterinary science. He's a truly fascinating character and an active member of our CC Pro community. Now, in this episode, we delve into Jon's motivations for pursuing a career in conservation, exploring his journey and the importance of communication skills in this field. Jon also shares his insights on effective messaging, the challenges he's faced, the lessons he's learned, and offers careers advice for aspiring conservationists. It's a wildlife conserving, a message communicating, careers advising pod chat. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Jon. I am the current wildlife department supervisor at the Cape of Good Hope SPCA in Cape Town, South Africa.
Wonderful, great. Jon, thanks for jumping on the podcast and agreeing for this. It's been nice to kind of see you in our CC Pro community and being really kind of supportive and sharing and supporting other people. And briefly, just reading what I've read about you already. So you've been working in wildlife conservation for like 28 plus years. 15 years in public relations, communications management. You are a qualified nature conservationist, interested in cetacean conservation, so whales and dolphins, human wildlife conflict as well, veterinary science. You're a pilot, and you've been working in all sorts of different communications media, digital, radio, television, online platforms. So you've got it all going on, but there's definitely kind of focus around communications and kind of spreading messages and building support. Let's start at the beginning if we can. So what motivated you to want to work in wildlife conservation, or where's your interest and passion for kind of wildlife come from?
Sure. Thanks, Nick. I think my parents. It's kind of growing up, that was all I was ever going to do. My parents kind of really sort of wholeheartedly pushed me in that direction where, look, my dad was in medical field and my mum was an artist, so I wasn't going to be a doctor or can't draw to save my life. So it was always, the moment I finished school, it was like I was sort of sent off to Zimbabwe to work in a game relocation outfit. Went straight into studying for a conservation degree. Well, back then 100 years ago, there wasn't available the amount of, or the kind of scope of courses which one has available now. There was only sort of one course you could do through correspondence over 3 years, which entitled you to a diploma in nature conservation. So that was all one could do if one wanted to, be immersed in the wildlife field. And it was really there working in Zimbabwe at the age of like 19 that I really sort of got to grips with what conservation media requires and entails, and that really sort of set me off in a career path, which has been incredible, and still to this day continues to keep me enthralled and entertained, and so I'm still at it. This was all I was ever going to do. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I tried a few years at accounting and then decided to head into the bush. This was all I was ever going to do. Unfortunately, growing up in South Africa, I had access to it, close by. There was never a game farm far away. So
yeah, you're in the right place to see incredible wildlife on the doorstep. Yeah.
Sure.
You mentioned you've had an incredible career and long may it continue, and it still excites you to this day. Just give it like a potted history, like a brief history of the sorts of things you've done. Like, what have been the key moments or roles or experiences you've had to date?
Sure. I've got a book coming out that details it, but a summary on the back of the book cover would read like, I think it's one can't really imagine what what wildlife conservation is without sort of being in it or having gone and done it. So I think,
Yeah.
having attended sort of these kinds of both hideous events like an elephant cull, um, to understand what's sort of going on when you're not even with a very good understanding of conservation at a at quite a sort of formative stage of a career, to be immersed in things like that and have to get to grips with why an elephant cull is what an elephant cull is. Onto, I've always been quite sort of fortunate and been able to spot a kind of a passion and then be able to head off and really try and immerse myself in it, which has taken me into various realms. So from starting out in kind of big game capture into, and then through that ending up bizarrely in a kind of a media management role, which took me into publishing and into, back then, the exciting world of magazines and print publishing, and being able to have things like when people still read magazines before, this was before the internet, and being able to really, get to grips with putting together the sort of images and the words that are going to try and inspire people to want to conserve species, people that might have never been into the bush before. Also kind of took a bit of a head, sort of took a bit of a mind shift, really, to go from having seen things when working in big game capture like an elephant cull to writing flowery things about why you should visit a game park, and support nature conservation. And then obviously coming across all the various, there are some pros and some cons involved in conservation. At that point, more cons than pros. I think these days it's quite a lot different. And then social media and suddenly arrived, and that was a whole, I remember, discovering and social media as a conservation tool and demystifying the science of then, social media, and thinking, how can we use this to benefit conservation at a time when social media wasn't really used for that. It was more used for bands and things like MySpace, which I'm really showing my age talking about. People be like, what was that? We had like very
I remember it.
formative.
I'm old enough.
Amazing. Okay, thanks. I don't feel quite so bad that I
And
don't know anyone
Bandcamp,
that
yeah.
remembers MySpace. Um, and so that's great. And then, seeing how that can be utilized and how that can be, sort of enhanced again to create a message, and kind of really getting into the language of what conservation was for social media, and then sort of stepping out of that and going into the marine realm and going, there needs to be, people just weren't giving enough love to sharks, and sharks were getting a bad reputation, and everyone was trying to kill great white sharks there at one point and going, oh no, that's terrible, I must use what I have learned to go and help sharks, and went off and immersed myself in the world of marine conservation, and got amazingly involved in African penguin conservation, through that, because the sharks all left, didn't they? At some point, they sort of left here, the Bay, False Bay, and they went elsewhere, Australia, New Zealand. So we had no sharks left, but we did have penguins, and suddenly penguins were the thing. And was able to just absolutely just fell in love with African penguins. I think if anybody, and started an online thing, and then we had COVID and really developed an online following through being able to talk to families and kids that was homeschooling all of a sudden during the pandemic about penguins, and showing them penguins and just how incredible penguins are and what they can teach us, in our own lives, just by following, the model that penguins use quite effortlessly. And of course, they're, being highly endangered. Penguins have had their own urgency, and there was a very real need to again translate what we were seeing here. And everyone was, penguins just became props at one stage, and everyone, they would just Instagram, for your Instagram, something to have in the background. And that really upset me, and it still does to this day. I mean, we were located right next to the massive land-based penguin watching spot that's Boulders Beach here, one of the two largest colonies left of African penguins in the southern hemisphere, and just seeing how people were just abusing these poor little birds for their own likes and shares, and going, this is wrong. and we had a lot of very interesting conversations, which actually manifested as fights and aggression and sort of conflict with people, so much so that our little beach where we operated from became a designated hotspot, according to City of Cape Town Marine Coastal Management, because this is where we would get very upset with tourists trying to take penguin selfies, and tourism and conservation should really, I believe, at some point work hand in hand. But there was just none of it. It was just tourism for tourism's sake, and our poor penguins were getting the short end of that stick. Anyway, I digress on that. But and then going from then, being called into my current position at the SPCA, which is obviously an international nonprofit working to end wildlife cruelty, I guess, and trying to engender sort of welfare, greater wildlife welfare concerns, well, for all animals, not just wildlife, dogs and cats and stuff as well, and hamsters and rabbits and cows and sheep. But I'm involved on the wildlife side more than anything else. So this is, for me, has been phenomenal, because it's been a kind of a detour into the very legal sense of animal welfare, where I've only been involved in quite sort of on the ground and getting the hands dirty. But here we're spending a lot of time in courtrooms and actually trying to get prosecutions for wildlife crimes and animal welfare abuses. And it's absolutely horrendous, the stuff we've seen since January. I don't know why, but January, since the start of 2024, it's been some of the most horrendous cases I have seen in my entire career, of having seen some pretty horrendous things. I don't know why. Just this year, it just seems like, yeah. Anyway, so we've dealt with a lot of that and spending a lot of time in court, and we'll spend a lot more time in sort of courtrooms coming up to try and get some sort of justice for some of these animal wrongs which have been perpetrated here.
So that's your current role, and I mean, you've got so much passion, and I don't even know where to start with your career, to be honest. Just like listening to you, it's incredible. I can see there's a book in there already. Yes. Focusing in on your current job with the SPCA, so that's the Society for Protection for Cruelty to Animals, yeah, for everyone that's listening, I guess. Yeah. What is your current role? What are your duties? And maybe like paint a little bit of a picture. Like, what's a typical day or a week, or do you know what I mean? What's it like to do your job? Like, what would you share in terms of the honesty of it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great question, actually. Thanks for that. It's as a wildlife supervisor. So here at the Cape of Good Hope SPCA, this is the oldest branch of SPCAs in the country. It was established in 1852. It is the only branch that has a wildlife rescue and wildlife welfare department. Mm-hmm. We see on average about 340 animals a month across 192 different species. This is just wild animals. There's obviously domestic animals on the other side and a farmyard behind me, which deals with those cases. So I have a small team, two staff members. There's three of us that run the country's busiest wildlife welfare concern. We deal with absolutely every single animal. If it's sick, injured, or busy dying, you're going to give us a call. We have animals here. We have a short-term care facility. So we've got birds, we've got mammals, we've got fish, we've got reptiles, we've got all sorts that have come in on the daily basis, and we try and piece them back together as best we can for release, or sort of, we operate within a very strict code. Yeah. There's all kinds of legislation that backs up what we do. The Animals Protection Act is one of them. We're also the only organization that is a statute of law. So we have our own legislation that sits in our very robust sort of freedom charter that came about at the end of apartheid, which guarantees animals a degree of protection. We define sort of animal requirements, animal freedoms, which need to be upheld. And if they're not being upheld, then you're on the wrong side of the law. So it's really nice from that point of view. We'll get calls. We're never closed. We're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which means I'm here more than I am at my own house. I'm on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for anything and everything from pigeons to porcupines to baboons to snakes, you name it.
And do you go out and like respond to the call? Someone says I got a baboon in my back garden that's
calls, Sure. 100%. We do have guys I mean, not the smaller stuff, the more technical stuff that requires immobilization. If there's like this morning, we had a baboon that was shot, which is sounds horrendous, but it's the norm here, unfortunately. So we'd have to go out and we also had a caracal cat. So caracals, if you're not aware, are the last big predators that we have left on the west in here on the peninsula. And they just get such a bad time as well. So I had one hit by a car on Sunday morning. I had to go out, and it was still alive, but I had to sedate the cat in order to get it out of the bush because they're quite fierce. Actually, they'll take your face off even though it's injured. So that kind of thing. A lot of the specialist cases I'll be called out to, and then yeah, it's a lot of admin as well. It's not all fun and tearing around the bush in a 4x4 scooping up injured animals. There's a ton of admin that keeps me up until everyone's gone home. I'll be here until the sun goes down in about 2 hours time, just catching up on admin. Ton of paperwork. It's always reports because we're we're public funded basically, but the government doesn't give us any money to do what we do, which is fine by us. We rely heavily on the public and trusts and successions and things like that to bring in fundraising. We've got a very good fundraising team, fortunately, but you can never have enough funds to cover everything that we need to do. So I've spent a lot of time writing grant proposals and project proposals and covering reports because obviously we're beholden to those people that do give us money to show them what their money's gotten for them and how their money is helping wildlife and actually assisting conservation. So that's endless. And then down to the nitty-gritty staff management and vehicle management and making sure that there's enough washing powder for all the blankets downstairs and that there's coffee in the cupboard upstairs for the staff and fresh milk and all the animals we have are happy. So we've got a few animals in now after quite a busy weekend. So I'm responsible for their care, their medication, and ultimately deciding what's going to happen to them. Are we going to hang on to them? Can they recover? Can they not recover? And then liaison with a bunch of different state organizations, our provincial conservation authority, that's called Cape Nature. We work with the South African police services in cases. We work with anybody and everybody. It's a lot. It's certainly the most demanding role I've ever had in my career, where I've been in the past quite sort of, there's been quite a lot of autonomy. This is exists within a very well structured and well defined and very old framework. So that's interesting. It's its own thing. It's not for everybody. We've seen the types of things we see. You sort of sit around with friends at the end of a day when I've got some time off, and people go, "Oh, I could never do what you do. That must be terrible." And I go, well, yes, it is actually terrible. And you go, "Are you receiving therapy for the kinds of things you've had to see just this week alone?" And I'm going, "Well, no, not really. I probably should actually see something." No, they do actually make us go see therapists. Because of the stuff we see on a daily basis. But it's good. It's good. It's good knowing making a difference anyway, at least.
Sounds like you're making a huge difference. Yeah. But, against some real significant challenges as well.
Sure.
I wanted to kind of spend a little bit of time talking to you about the kind of communications aspect of your career and what you've been doing. Because obviously that's been so important, like reading your background with PR and comms across, 15 or so different years. Why do you see communication skills being so important for conservationists and wildlife? Why did you jump on social media? Why is that aspect? That's not frontline. That's not in the bush doing the kind of the nitty gritty, if you like. Conservation. That's standing back and seeking to raise support, get messages out there. Why did you see that as really important to our movement, if you like?
Sure. Another great question. Thank you for that. For me, there's the hands-on, like you said, in the bush, getting your hands dirty side, and then there's the side of conservation that most people, and I think the hands-on side is a side that most people will never get to experience perhaps themselves, or it's something that sort of happens for a lot of good reasons outside of public gaze, but then obviously you need to keep people informed. Otherwise, we're always trying to force a sort of human behavioral change through accepting that animals have perhaps certainly if you look at a species like baboons, that they have a sort of sentience, then that shouldn't be ignored. And I think then, and what is the most direct way of reaching people nowadays? It used to be in magazines and newspapers and articles, and you would never be able to define who your audience was. You would just write an article and hope somebody reads it. And if you happen to be writing for a National Geographic or one of the more known global titles that gave column space to conservation issues of the day, you would at least know that perhaps a good number of people might actually take up and see what you're doing, and you'd want the best pictures. And then suddenly that all changed, and now everyone was reachable, and your audience was clearly defined, and Facebook could tell you who to reach and how to reach them wherever you wanted to, target your message. So the messaging became really important. And the language of conservation changed and continues to change, actually, which is quite interesting to see. But suddenly the language changed, and now we were talking about, it wasn't this sort of static thing that had happened. This was about what was happening right now and outside your front window. To people that lived in a little coastal village could go and see whales coming past and know that, that's a protected species, or that's a rare species, or they're very fortunate to see that species and what that species is doing, and have suddenly start to get feedback in real time, and be able to energize people and get people excited again. And now, and that's just people, then you can define it right down to sort of, now you deal with school children and who are on, social media, and the next generation of conservationists, and going, oh, if I had this when I was at that, 15, 16, what would I have liked to know about? And there's so many things, and a lot of people have become really good at that, at telling that story and doing it. And it's fantastic to see, and people are raising money, and causes are being fought, and great things are happening because of it. So there was that immediacy, where it come from a background of old school print media, and hoping, and like I said, that somebody gets it, to knowing exactly who's getting it, and they could tell you why they're getting it, or ask a question, or say you're talking complete rubbish, this is what I think, and fight with people online. Mostly that's really what we do, is we fight with people
That's
online.
another recurring issue, is like pitching the fights on the beach, in the courtrooms, and online in social media.
It is, yeah, very combative, very confrontational. I mean, I can't help myself in that respect. I started an Instagram page just on the penguins, called Penguins Hate You, which is just about all the things penguins would do, just through people taking selfies and going, penguins aren't okay with this, and penguins don't love your selfie, and trying to, that was also just a communication exercise to try and get in that era of people being drawn to knowing why penguins hate people, because maybe penguins don't love us. I don't think they do, for what we give, the amount of grief we give them, and we're always stealing their food and giving them a hard time. And they really don't want to be in our selfies. So, you get to sort of play around with that, and then reach, and then at the other end, reach government ministers and governments and the people that can make change, immediately, and start to really motivate for what is actually going on, and why, again, with penguins as an example, why penguins need to have their own marine protected area. And when the government was saying, but they already have a protected area, but you're going, but that marine protected area is 30 years old. Things have changed. The oceans aren't what they were 30 years ago. Give the penguins, and we were able to do that through social media, and through people going, oh my goodness, the penguins aren't being protected. That's terrible. We need to do something about it. So the voice, just the amplification, was amazing, and it still is. And that's why I think social media, for anybody doing conservation, it's worthwhile if you've got a cause that you follow, or that you're working your soul for. And let's be honest, we're all working here because what else would we be doing? It's just what feels right for us and what we're passionate about. Hopefully, you can find, others as passionate, hopefully, and inspire people who aren't as passionate to join you, or not you even, just join something, be passionate, look into that, give that your time and your energy, because they need it, that animal needs it. So it's ongoing, and it's evolving, and it's fantastic, and it's it's really that, yeah, I think that immediacy that as a media person and as a writer love and crave knowing who's giving about, who cares about what we do. And who cares is really a theme that runs through all of this for me, and it's the subject of a documentary I'm busy writing called Who Cares, because who actually cares, and defining who cares. Should the penguins go extinct? Who cares? Like, how is it going to affect the person who's running his little cafe store down the road? Is he going to be affected if the penguins disappear from Cape Town tomorrow? Well, in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, who cares? Does anyone actually care? Because here we are, all of us battling our souls out daily for a species, or we love chimpanzees, or we love orangutans, or we love sea slugs, and if they disappear, who cares? And it's been fascinating, and that's really what I'm trying to answer myself personally, is who cares enough about animals and species, endangered species, threatened species of least concern. Who actually cares enough about them? And it's fantastic because people do actually care, and that's what has been heartening for me through all of this, and goes back to social media, to find out by putting that question out there, who cares, that a lot of people do actually care, maybe more than don't, for the first time in the history of humans. And that's great to see, and it's great to be able to know that those people, they don't stand to gain anything besides a world with animals in it, which is all we really want. It's what keeps
it's nice to hear. I mean, I guess that comes back to the question of like why communications matters, because I feel like as a conservation movement, we've been really good at preaching to the converted. We're very good at talking to ourselves. We share this passion for wildlife, and that immediately connects people. It feels like we're a sort of global family of people who, that's the one thing we've got in common, and therefore we can work together, we can collaborate, we can support, we can share whatever. But that's got such a limit and a kind of ceiling to it, and it's kind of reaching the other people outside of that and bringing them into the movement, and really answering that question, like you said, almost like, why should people care, and how can we make more people care? Is so central to how we're going to grow this movement and have more impact. So if we're at the tipping point of more people caring than not, and if that's changed over time, then that again shows hope and optimism, which is something that I think we desperately need as a movement.
Definitely. I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. I can see a few comments dropping in. Thanks, guys. I will throw over to you in a minute as well for questions yourself. Questions for you, Jon. There's a couple of things I'd like to ask. One thing, because you're doing so much, and we're just skimming the lightest surface. It's like you're throwing on, I'm doing a documentary, I'm writing a book. It's like, how are you doing all this? Where do you find the time? But when you look at your career to date, like what are you most proud of? Like, what has been your achievements? And of course, everything's collective. I don't need to say, we recognize it's teamwork, but like, what are you going to stand back at in years to come and go, I'm so proud of this thing?
Sure. I haven't stopped long enough to actually ever ask myself that. I'm lying in bed tonight going, well, sitting at my desk tonight rather at 2 a.m. going, actually, what is the answer to that? I don't actually. Wow. I don't believe I've found it yet, because then I would have it at my fingertips to be able to say, well, currently what I'm doing gives me I would have to think my current role, as hard and as ridiculous as it is, and as low paid as it is, of course, is actually, it's the most fulfilling, because I think it's where we've been able to make the most change, and to actually bring about, the organization has a fantastic name, and we've been able to affect some really positive things in the time that I've been here for animals, and stop horrendous things from happening to animals. So that's, you can't not go to sleep at night going, for that one baboon that came in here shot to pieces this morning, it's going to matter a whole lot what today entailed. It won't matter much tomorrow, because there'll be another baboon or something else. But for that one particular animal, it starts a whole chain of things. And I'm extremely proud to be in this position, to be able to do that, versus being on the sidelines or being the journalist writing about someone else that's done this. Because no one was really doing this, which is why they asked me to come and take over this department, because it was just kind of there as a department, and it wasn't run by people that were conservation. It was just someone that moved up from the dog or the cat section. So suddenly there was somebody with wildlife interest and to drive it and go, we need to do this, and have set up relationships with other organizations that wouldn't work with this organization previously, all towards great things and better things for the animals. So I think wherever I go from here, I'll always look back on my time at the SPCA going, sure, we were able to do the most in the shortest space of time, just absolutely, just having the tools to do so. And that's been great. And we've had a couple of, you get a courtroom success, and we caught a wanted marine poacher yesterday, which was amazing. And he's behind bars, and you're going like, okay, well, it sucks for him, but for the species he was busy harvesting in a no-take zone at the time, it's great because he'll be out again, of course, probably by now already, but it made a difference. So yeah, long story short story long, actually, my current career is what I'm most proud of. I might think of something again at 2:00 this morning, WhatsApp you or email you. Go, actually, can I change?
Don't let it keep you awake. It sounds like you need your sleep as much as anyone. Yeah, but a lot to be proud of there. That's amazing. Yeah. We have a lot of people listening who are aspiring conservationists, so they might be switching careers. We've got a few in our audience today, or they might be as early stage, leaving university, job seeking at that sort of point in their career. Like, what advice would you give someone in the modern age, 2024, looking to kind of start and secure their first paying job as a professional conservationist? What things should they bear in mind? What should they develop? What should they do? What advice have you got for them?
I think it helps. Look, firstly, I'd say just be absolutely fearless. Don't doubt that what you're doing or what you want to do is important and is needed. And if you get 100 rejection or no replies to the CVs you send out, it's don't take that as an indication of your own worth or your own skills necessarily, or your own abilities, because it's just the fact that you're in here and you want to make a difference, you maybe switched career, that's enough. So hold on to that and keep that going, as in the face of going, oh, there's no jobs out there. There's a billion jobs out there for the right people, and get internships are amazing. You might need to get some experience, and it's unfortunate that experience in this career is valued. It's quite good currency to have over a degree. I've found that. I mean,
agree.
my conservation degree doesn't count for anything anymore. It's so old. Did it 100 years ago. I don't even think they offer it anymore. It's really worth nothing, the paper that it's printed on, but it's been the experience, and experiences are available to, people you can get on. You can do a remote social media manager for a wild dog conservation organization based in Zimbabwe, and you need never go to Zimbabwe. Great if you can, but if you can't, you can still get involved and see what's going on. If you've got a favorite species, even better, follow that. If you're into whale sharks and you really want to, there's so much happening in each individual species' little realm. If that's your thing, you just want to do, so know what you want to do. If you just want to, and you'll find an internship that does it. We offer internships here for people that want to come and work with wildlife, that you can get experience here that you can't get anywhere else. I think, the value of internships cannot be underrated, even though that's not paying you. Some do pay, I guess, or you might have to pay to do them. I don't know, but while you're studying, and look at fields. I mean, sure, we spent a week now on wildlife forensics research gathering, and I mean, the field of wildlife forensics has gotten me so. I wish I had gone into that, because that is just, and there's money there, and there's people, and there's incredible innovation, and we've got a lot of people leaving traditional medical fields, human medical fields, to apply themselves to conservation forensics, and people in police forces going, oh, I'm done with this. I'm doing wildlife forensics now. I'm tired of digging up human bodies. I want to dig up animal bodies. And you've got, if you're into, drone technology, there's incredible things happening with drone technology in a conservation field. Finally, that technology's caught up to be able to help you, and just be open to that. If you're open to all the great things that are going on, sure. I mean, it's really, there's no excuse for you to say, oh, well, I tried, there's nothing out there for me, because then you're in the wrong field, because they're so just keep at it and make networks. The stuff you do, which is what drew me to your organization and to the way you guys are set up, is that's like, oh, if I had what you guys offer when I was studying, my goodness, my 28, 32-year career would have been a lot more fun, and a lot I wouldn't have done, wouldn't have taken me so long to get here, kind of thing. So use those resources. You've got more resources than anyone has ever had, ever. And absolutely use them. I think I'm still very, very blown away by what you do and the way you've done it, and the support that you give people. So, I mean, it's, to me, this is the pinnacle of where it should be for getting new people onto the job.
Thank you, Jon.
They're out there. Those opportunities are out there, and stick with you guys, and you will find it. You absolutely will. There's no excuse not to, because they're out there. The planet needs you. The jobs are there if you're willing. You can choose your country. You can choose your species and go do it, and even if it's not forever, you'll come away just having broadened your horizon and helped an animal. Hopefully.
Yeah, and that's great advice. Yeah, thank you, and thank you for your kind words as well. We appreciate that as well. Last question, then, before we wrap up, and I know the audience want to ask you some questions as well, leaving time for those. If we could make you like a global czar for the day, a global leader, you now rule the human planet. Like, what law or what decree would you enact that would help to preserve wildlife, help make this planet a slightly better place? You could like wave your magic wand. What would you do and say?
Outlaw selfies and selfie sticks. Ban
Nice and
selfie
simple.
sticks unilaterally. I think species yet to be named will go extinct due to selfies. No, it's not that easy, I guess, but that would be one of them, definitely. If I could have more than one,
Go on.
I think I would just. Oh yeah, sure. That's another one that's going to keep me up all night. Oh, you know what? I would actually do that. I'm gonna.
You can always loop back and tell me,
Yeah,
but I don't want you to lose sleep again.
There's so many things. Oh, there's so many things. Yeah,
Yeah.
Governments must give a portion of all their money to to species protection. A lot of governments are. There are fantastic things happening, so it is happening. I just wish we could not, just dial back the consumerism, or the need to consume animal products, which are doing so much harm to so many species. There's just, in this day and age, it appalls me that we need elephant tusk daggers just to look fancy. I mean, we need to evolve as a species. So I'd make humans evolve to the point of beyond needing animal things, adornments to sort of somehow feel better about themselves, and rather just enjoy that animal being alive. It's worth more, I think, than your dagger hand. Not to, but
yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Jon, it's such a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for jumping on the podcast. You're such a busy guy. We really value your time. Thank you for jumping on. If people want to find out more about you, your work, maybe get involved or support you or the SPCA, like, where should we send them? Where should they go?
LinkedIn's fantastic. I think I'm waiting for you guys to do your own social media platform, which I suppose it is, but just for conservation, like Facebook for conservation. I think you guys need to do that. Cut out all the dance moves and fake news and politics. I don't know. I mean, the internet, Google, it's a fantastic thing. You can find out exactly where I am on Google. SPCA, Cape of Good Hope, SPCA, which is here in Cape Town. You'll find our department and what we do in its own understated way. And yeah, absolutely. We're always open to collaborations as a big theme for us in 2024, and working with people around the world and hearing what other people want to do, and maybe being able to give that opportunity to people, or somehow help link people up. I think that's where you guys are masters as well, is that network provision is such a thing. Sure. To have a network is incredible. So if we can be a part of that network, that's our honor. Would gladly be a part of that, and consider ourselves too through conservation careers and the stuff you guys do.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, well, thank you again, John. It's been a real pleasure. We'll
You.
drop a few links into the kind of show notes. Yeah, and been really nice to chat. Stay on the line because I'm going to open up for a few questions from the call. But once again, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time and interest, for doing what you guys do.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. If you did, then please do hit the subscribe button to get notified of new episodes as they drop. And also, please give us a rating or a review because it really helps us to get in front of more people, and we really enjoy reading them all. As you'll have heard, our podcasts are now recorded in front of a live audience who sit in and listen to the chat, and then after the mics are turned off, they get a chance to talk to the host, to share their thoughts, and also to ask questions. It's a really great format. If you'd like to be in the audience, all you need to do is join the Conservation Careers Academy. Now, in the Conservation Careers Academy, you'll get full access to the world's biggest conservation job board, listing over 15,000 jobs, volunteer and internships across the globe each year. You'll also enjoy access to our amazing CC Pro private members community with regular events, networking and support. Plus, you'll get full access to our growing library of career-boosting resources, guides and templates. And best of all, it only costs a few dollars, euros or pounds per month to join the Academy. Now, to find out more, please visit conservation-careers.com/academy or simply click the join button at the top of our website. See you on the inside.